Well, this is a video that I never thought I'd have to make, but here we are. I get up, it's Sunday morning, it's beautiful outside, I make myself a cup of coffee, French press, that's how I like it, black, and I'm playing Dragon's Dogma 2 for a couple hours, having a blast. I'm towards the end of the game, and then I'm like, I'm gonna play a little bit of No Rest for the Wicked, the very game you're seeing on screen, and after playing for about 20 minutes or so, I begin to smell something funny, almost like fabric burning or something like that. Immediately, I look at my computer because, as a 4090 owner, it was in the back of my mind. And sure enough, the plug was bubbling. It was melting. So I immediately turn off the power supply and then unplug it. And then I wait about 10 seconds or so, and then I disconnected the 12 VHPWR connector from the GPU. And I removed the GPU and then open up the rear case of my computer to unplug the other side of the plug, and it's fused onto the power supply. So both ends ended up melting. I pulled the power supply out, as you can see here. That's the other side, which is fused to the power supply socket, and you can't get it out. I caught it pretty quickly, or it probably could have got much worse. So I take the card and drive to my local micro center where I bought it 2 years ago, and I always get the extended warranty for GPUs and CPUs and power supplies, actually. And you can see here on the bottom left how it's melted. And basically, Micro Center ended up giving me a brand new Asus TUF 49, same exact thing, right? I probably could have got something else if I wanted to, but I like the top model. And we're going to go through the new 4090 as well, because I want to show you the coil whine and temperatures and all that stuff. But I get back with a new power supply and a new GPU, and I'll just put some footage here of me unboxing this stuff. But essentially, I've always told people to make sure the plug's all the way in. So obviously mine was always all the way, no aggressive bends or anything like that. The card's always vertically mounted, and I will show you how I have it mounted and wired at the moment. Now, I am not an ordinary user because I do test different cards and stuff like that, so I do unplug things more than a regular user would, who might just plug their GPU in and they never take it out. But for over a year, I always used the NVIDIA adapter that came with the card, and then I think like 5 or 6 months ago or so, I bought this new power supply that had a 12 VHPWR plug natively, and that's the one that ended up going today. Now, whenever I'd unplug the 4090 to replace it with the 7900 XTX for purpose of making videos, what I would do is I would unplug the 12 VHPWR plug from the power supply side. And then the power supply had another plug that was 12 VHPWR on one side and 2 PCIe 8 on the other. And that's how I would plug my 7900 XTX. But as far as the RTX 4090 GPU side, that plug was always in. I would never remove that. And as you've seen in this video, what ended up melting was on both sides, power supply and the GPU side. So that's how I ended up doing. As you can see here, there's a 12 VHPWR that would go to the power supply, and then it turns into 2 PCIe 8 on the other side, and then there's another PCIe 8 that goes to the power supply. Now this here is my new GPU with a new power supply, but this is how I had it wired. As you can see, the power cable coming from the GPU, this is how it was. It just went straight up and then took a turn further back and then went to the back of the case. No aggressive bends or anything. That's how I've always had it. And then on the power supply side, it was pretty much the same thing. As you can see here, just came out of the power supply straight over, and then it would go up and then into the other side of the case. So no aggressive bends or anything like that either. I did read all the comments on my community post I made about this. Thank you, by the way, for those who left comments and theories of what it could have been, and that me plugging it in and out could have been a contributing factor. And that could have been, absolutely. And I've heard about this, that you can only plug it in and out 20 or 30 times, although this has been more of a theory than something officially acknowledged. Officially, even if you read the instructions on my new power supply, it doesn't say anything about plugging it in and out, but it says about the bend, to not make aggressive bends too close to the plug. But what I'm going to do going forward to prevent this, or do what I can, is that I'm going to use the power adapter that comes with a graphics card, the new one. I have a couple other ones, but I'm going to use the new one, and that will always remain plugged into the GPU And then when I want to plug in the 7900 XTX, I'll just disconnect it from the PCIe side, and that'll be that. Now, as far as the replacement GPU I got, I had the chance to get any other 4090 I wanted and then pay the difference if it was over what I originally paid. And they actually did have a white Strix 4090, which looks gorgeous, and I really like it. However, that would have cost me an extra $300. But I decided to stick with the top 4090 just because I really like the build quality of it and I really like the cooler. But you always risk the chance of getting a GPU that has coil whine. My original 4090 was actually really good in that regard. It had maybe a tiny bit of a coil whine that you could hear if you had the glass panel off and you got really close to it. Maybe you could hear like a little tiny like hiss of a coil whine. Nothing really annoying or anything like that. But the replacement is actually really good. There's nothing at all. Let's take a listen. Now I'm using my camera again, my cell phone camera, and the fan noise is a lot louder than it is in person because how the camera picks it up. But you can see that I'm running the card at 400 watts, 100%. You can hear the fan, but there is no coil whine at all, like zero. We've been pulling about 400 watts for 10 minutes now, and no coil whine. Another reason why I wanted the top 4090 is because I really like the cooler on it. Let's take a look at some of the temperatures and the delta. So we have a GPU temperature of 60 degrees Celsius with hotspot of 67 degrees Celsius. That's like a 7-degree delta. That is really, really good. And for the memory junction temperature, we have 72 degrees Celsius, which is pretty cool for GDDR6X. That's my 4090 story though, and I consider myself somewhat lucky to have a local micro center and to be able to go and exchange it. Most people won't have access to that, and you might have to deal with the RMA systems, which sucks depending on the companies. Or you might have to pay a shop to replace the connector for you and have to buy a new power supply. It's definitely a headache, and it's something that is a concern. And I do feel for all my brothers and sisters with the 4090, because if you know about this, it is definitely something that is a concern. And unfortunately, whenever this is discussed, there is a small group of people that almost like they take it personal, that get somewhat aggressive. I never understood that because I've been aware of this, and I've been in the forums, in the subreddit, telling people to make sure that they plug the plug all the way in, because especially when the GPU is new, that plug is tight and you want to push it in until it clicks. And I've always done that, but there is more to it than this. I mean, even if it's only rated for 20 or 30 times, which again, it's something, as far as I'm aware, is just a theory. It's not some manufacturer has said this. As far as I'm aware, it should still not be that way. Our old PCIe connectors could be put in and out, plugged and unplugged many, many times. I've done it a ton myself. And I get it. Sometimes the same thing can happen even with the PCIe connectors, but it's not as widespread as this. Clearly, there's a design issue here. You know, when you introduce a new plug or a new anything, it should be an improvement of the old, right? It shouldn't be where it should account for user error, is all I'm saying. It should be an improvement. And I do like one plug to rule them all. I like the idea. I just think that it should have been better refined before it went to mass production, because yeah, I mean, I follow Northridge Fix and other channels that fix GPUs. This is an issue, and it's a concern for a product that costs a lot of money. So I do hope something becomes of this, and I don't know, I hope all you guys stay safe, because I mean, had I not caught it in time and I'd left my computer running, rendering a video, which is something I do sometimes, right? You know, the thought goes to your mind, well, what if I wasn't there? Would the power supply have shorted out and tripped, hopefully? Would it have kept going? Who knows, right? But good thing I caught it in time and I was able to get a replacement. So for that, I am grateful. But anyway, I hope you all found this entertaining or insightful. Whatever you think, let me know in the comments below, and I appreciate you all watching and sharing your feedback with me. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you next time.